Good morning, everyone. This is Pastor Josh, and we are continuing our interview series. And today we have Hillary Wiessinger. Hillary, thanks for agreeing to have a conversation with me.
You are so welcome.
I really like to start when we're having these conversations is to find out where people are from, because I assume that no one is from the Bay Area. So where are you from? When did you get here?
That's funny. It's a good one. I was actually born in San Jose. And when I was like 6 months old, we moved to Concord. When I was 6, we moved to London. When I was 10, we moved to Holland. When I was 13, we moved to Connecticut. When I was 14, we moved to Piedmont. I graduated from Piedmont High School. So I'm from the Bay Area, but I would not consider myself a Bay Area. I mean, I went to high school here, but I describe myself as a kid who moved around a lot.
What took your parents to like London and Holland? And
it's funny. My dad worked for Bank of America. He wanted to see the world. He was an international bank loan officer. So when we were in London, he made loans to the Middle East. And when we were in Holland, he made loans to Eastern Europe. And then in Connecticut, he was doing loans with Colombia and South America. And then when we came back, he did a huge water loan with Mexico. So he's loves to travel. And this was his way to see the world. Every summer we were given like a trip back to the States, and he would use it where we would get in the car and just drive all over Europe. So he loved to travel. And then back in those days, they paid for your housing, your kids' schools. Nobody wanted to move to Europe, which is funny now. It's usually really hard to transfer. So it's a different story. But we have really great memories of it. I actually remember it fondly, but most of my friends were military kids and oil kids, which was...
That's interesting.
You don't think of the oil kids, but I had a lot of oil friends.
Did you all go to the same school?
Yeah, I went to an American school in Holland. And it's interesting when you go to a school like that, because people are transferring in and out like every couple of months. Like it's not even on the school year. And then I went to a British school in London. So I had a British accent, and I was fully...
You had a British accent?
Yes. And I remember when my best friend, George, was taken away to go to boarding school, and we were in like first grade. And I remember crying, and my mom was crying because she was like, how are they making him go to boarding school? But it's a tradition there. So I remember just not understanding it, and why does he have to go away? And yeah, so just all different traditions. But yeah, we didn't have a car when we lived in London. So that was another fun one. Yeah. So different cultures.
Do you remember it enough to like, have you ever taken your kids to England or Holland and kind of shown them where you lived or anything like that?
Yeah, so we've taken them to Holland. We did a bike trip there, a bike barge trip, which I highly recommend with kids. I have not taken them to London yet. I told myself, we took them on a trial to New York and DC, and they were awesome. So I think they're ready now, but I wanted them to be ready. Yeah. I love London. So I've gone to London many times with Gary. He travels there. And when I go, I don't do any museums. I'm actually all about markets and just being outside and being with the people. But yeah. I think because I was young, when I was in Holland, I was obsessed with just showing the kids all the different foods. So mostly my favorite places are the candy stores, because I was a child, showing them all the different types of candy, all the different foods that I used to love to eat. And then being on a bike was just, I was allowed to go wherever I wanted on a bike. I had so much freedom. So huge, amazing. I loved Holland. It's like probably one of my favorite countries in the world. The nicest people. So just loved it. So that's, yeah. So they've gotten to enjoy that, and they love it too.
That's awesome. I was in London last year in June for my honeymoon. Part of it was in London, and we traveled all around England. And what I really loved about, by the time we made it to London, it was the end of our trip, and we were just done, kind of just like, we didn't have the energy to go to museums, right? Like we couldn't process it. So what we did was we just did a lot of walking around, and we James Ryman recommended doing Camden Market, which was
one of my favorites.
which was a lot of fun. It was really just a lot of fun to be there. And we did a lot of hanging out in the park, Hyde Park. Is that?
There's Hyde Park or Kensington Hyde Park. I lived by Kensington Hyde Park, and then you go through that one to get to Hyde Park.
Oh, okay. That's so, and so we just did a lot of like hanging out there, and it was lovely. I loved London. You
can just get so much by walking. Gary and I always do a ton of walking. We split up a lot. He'll go to a museum and I'll go to a market, and then we meet up again. He loves the museums are amazing, but my dad always tells people that he thinks he ruined museums for my sister and I, because we grew up going to so many museums that now we're like, oh. But I don't know. I think I will go back. I do go to the museums, but Gary says I go to museums on speed, like I'm speeding through them, and he reads everything. So we can't go together.
You just have different tempos that you do that.
It's just an argument, and we say that we almost got a divorce in the Vatican Museum, which is like ironic. Because he wanted to take it all in, and I was like, and so we just go at our own pace now. We've learned. I wait at a cafe when we're done, or whatever the case may be. You got to let everyone go at their own pace.
A sign that you've truly learned how to work it out, right? It's just like, you just know you can't do museums together, and that's okay.
Okay.
That's now, how long have you been married for?
I've been married 20 years, almost 20, well, actually 21, since 1998.
1998, you guys got married. The last century.
It'll be 22, gosh. Yeah, 1998, we got married. We met when he was at Yale, and I was visiting my sister at Columbia in New York City. And she was in graduate school, and she said, I need to study for a couple days. You need to go visit your friend at Yale. And one of my best friends from high school went to Yale, and Gary was her neighbor. So that's how I met Gary.
Really?
Kind of crazy. Yeah. We were 20. And then I went back to San Diego. I went to school in San Diego. And I told my roommate, I just met this amazing person, and I'll probably never see him again. And then the phone rang.
And it was him.
And it was him, and we both had to get a part-time job to pay for our phone bills. Back in the day when you had to pay your phone bill.
Right. Like that's a landline, right? That's what wasn't a cell phone.
Yeah, and you can't just hang out for hours.
Right.
You set a timer.
Yeah, when long distance was a thing, like you had to pay long distance bills, right? Yes. You said you went to school in San Diego. Where'd you go?
So I went to University of San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
I went there to play softball. I wanted to play softball in college, so I played there.
Yeah.
And I went to school there. It was great.
It's a beautiful campus.
It is. It's a little bit like not real. I mean, you kind of feel like you're in Disneyland or something. Totally. My senior year, I lived off campus, and that was awesome. I lived on the beach with a bazillion roommates so that we could afford it. But that I really enjoyed, just getting out, and I would run on the beach every day. It was amazing.
Which one?
So I lived on South Mission, right by Avila Port.
Yeah.
I don't know why the people rented to us, to be honest, but we didn't do any damage, so we were good. But I think we had a 3-bedroom and like 6 people.
That sounds about right.
Right?
That sounds right.
But I loved San Diego, but when I graduated, my parents were like, you need to come back to like reality. Too much fun there. There's 3 schools in a pretty small town. It's a very fun place.
Yeah, I'm from San Diego. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had family who's been married at the Immaculata, whatever that church. It's called the Immaculata, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And just the campus is beautiful, and that's
actually
awesome.
Probably where I found my love of church. So as a kid, we would go to church in Berkeley at night. To this great place. I grew up Catholic, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was always taking us to church. My dad's Protestant, and he'd always say, I'm not Catholic. And that was his excuse to not have to go to church. And so we would always go to church with my mom. My mom's uncle was a Monsignor. She grew up in a very strict Catholic home. And but she always took us to these churches in Berkeley where it was much more progressive and We really liked it, and she always thought it would sort of reach out to us a little bit more, my sister and I. And then, but I always went to church because I had to, right? My mom was taking me, etc. But then in college, we have a little chapel that's next door to the Immaculata. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's the most beautiful place in the whole world. That's where I would get married. The church is beautiful, but the chapel is, it's the most beautiful place. So the next time you're there, you should take a peek. So we would go there, and the priest was, you know, basically hired to be around college students. So the sermons were always directed right to us, and they always spoke really to you. And the Loma Prieta earthquake happened when I was in college, and the fires happened when I was in college. And so those times when you needed to sort of think about something other than college and your friends and your drama, I always found church sort of helped me pull back and think about the things that I should really be thinking about and pull me out of myself. And so that's actually where I started going on my own. My mom was like, "You went to church today?" My girlfriends and I would go 5 o'clock on Sunday night. And that was sort of that's what we would do. It was our thing.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that was kind of neat.
And so who's the, is Gary the Lutheran then, or?
Gary's Lutheran. So funny story, we moved to San Carlos 2 weeks before we had the twins. We were living in San Francisco, and we got the house, and then 2 weeks before they were born, we moved in. And the weekend before we had them, I was pregnant, we went to church. Gary saw a sign on San Carlos Ave that said Lutheran, Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. You know that sign? It's like right on Cedar and San Carlos Ave. So that's the sign that pulled Gary. And Gary goes, "I saw this church. Why don't we go check it out?" And I said, "Okay." And I said, "You know, I just want to go to church where you'll go with me." Because I had been going in the city. I went to one that was right in Chinatown on California and Grant. And that's the priest who married us, Pastor Tom. And he was a twin. His brother's name was Jerry, which I always thought was funny.
Tom and Jerry?
Tom and Jerry.
That's hilarious.
Not the best. Anyway, he was the greatest. And so anyway, I just said, "I want to go wherever you'll come with me." So we go together. So then we went, and Pastor Dan was there, and he had really young kids, and we were giving birth. And I was like, "This is perfect." We never stopped. I mean, it was like we didn't even think twice.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Yeah. Super. And then we didn't come back till 6 weeks later. So the babies, I think, or maybe 3 weeks later. I mean, we didn't come back like the next weekend, right?
Well, you just had kids. You just had twins.
We brought the babies, and everybody was like, "Oh my goodness!" You know, everybody was so welcoming. So it was the right place for us.
You know, with having twins, I sometimes still call my mother, and I'm like, "Mom, just thank you. Just thank you for, you know, this is much later in life. I'm almost 40 now, but I just think about having twins, and I go, man, I have 2 kids that are 3 years apart, and that's hard. Having twins is hard."
It is. Gary wanted 4 kids. And when we had our twins, he still was like, "We're going to have tons of kids, blah, blah, blah." And one of our kids was a runner, and I'm sure everyone can imagine which one was a runner. And to the point where when we took her even to Cedar Park, she would climb the fence at like 2, climb the fence and leave. Like, she was a serious runner. And I would have to like drop Jack on the floor and like chase after her. So we were like, "We're good. we have to be man-on-man defense. This is the way it's gonna be.
No zone defense because she's a runner."
There's no zones for us.
That's great. You are also a teacher.
Yeah.
And we are going through kind of this weird season in the universe right now. We're in a weird timeline where you have had to drastically learn new skills. What's it been like for you being a teacher during this pandemic?
Lonely in some ways. I'm an extrovert. I love being around my students. I get energy from other people. And so it's lonely. You know, you get energy and you get enjoyment. And when you're teaching, I set a goal of where I'm going to get every day, but I'm very much the teacher that teaches off the pace of the class. So if the class is grasping it and everything's going well, I'll go faster. But if they don't, then I go slower. I'm not one of those people who says I have to get through this today. This is not how I roll. And so it's so much harder to do any of that now. And I teach a lot of discovery learning, and that's really hard to do right now. So there's a lot of things that are just much harder to do. It's just harder. It's just harder, and it's harder on the kids. And so it's a much tougher situation.
And are you doing like classes through Zoom? Are you doing video?
Yeah, so actually you can kind of see what I'm doing all right here. This is my Elmo. And so that will project to my computer. Here's my messy desk, which by the way is in my kitchen. And so here I am in the middle of the most chaotic place of the house. That's just the way it rolls around here.
Right.
I Zoom every day. I Zoom twice live, and twice a week live, and 3 times a week recorded. I record everything, even when it's live, like you're doing now. Because some kids can't come at the time that I'm recording when I'm going live. Some kids are sharing computers with other members of the family. And everything is recorded. Everything is done with them. Everything that I expect them to do, I do as well. So they can, if they watch the recordings, they can get everything they want. I get really sweet comments. I get parents saying, oh my gosh, I learned so much today. I get kids saying, gosh, the video was really great today. Or I'll say something funny in it, and then they'll say, oh, we got that. Like, I just wonder, is anyone listening to me? Because when you're recording it and they're not live, you're just talking to yourself. And so, and you're trying to entertain them. So it's an interesting one. But yeah, so we do all that. Testing's probably the hardest part. And in middle school, we do assessments, and I usually do group tests. So we can do that in Zoom, doing breakout rooms. So we do group tests, and I do individual tests, and I do pair quizzes, and we just do a lot of different types of assessments, and assessments have been challenging. We're still learning from that. There's a lot of cheating going on, or help, or whatever way you want to call it. Googling, there's something called Photo Math, where you download the app and you just hover it over the problem and it tells you the answer. So there's a lot of yeah. And it was built, I genuinely believe it was built to help kids with their homework, which I think is a great thing. I think if you do your homework and you do it all wrong, there's no point in doing your homework. So I believe that you should do your homework and then check your answers, and then you can find what ones were you confused on. Right. So checking your answers, that's a wonderful thing. But unfortunately now I think the developers didn't realize what it would be used for. I mean, that's what I have to believe. I don't think they developed it to help kids on tests. Right. Right. But I'm hopeful for next year that we'll have at least a couple days in class so that we can, another one of the hardest things is kids who don't turn things in. And at school, I can say, hey, can you get out your notebook? Can you show me where this is? For 7th and 8th graders, it can be really challenging. They're like, oh, I forgot. Oh, and it's a lot of back and forth. Yeah. It's a lot of communication with the parents, a lot of communications with the child. Yeah. And kids aren't used to checking email. And that's really the only way I have to communicate. So if they're not checking their email, then it's really hard to say, hey, I haven't heard from you. Are you okay? Right. So it's all those new challenges. Sometimes I'll spend an entire day just trying to get a hold of everybody. And it's 20 messages back. It can, and that kind of stuff that would have probably taken me 5 minutes at school. You're just like, oh my goodness, I think I'm spinning my wheels. Yeah. Are you finding that most of the kids have access to like internet or computers, that kind of thing? So our school district gave that all out. So we gave hotspots to those who needed them, and we gave computers to those who asked for them. I think the biggest thing that I'm learning is that I think some of them didn't ask. They were like, oh, I have a computer at home, I'll be fine. But they didn't think about the fact that the dad's using the computer or the mom's using the computer. Yeah. So they weren't thinking about the fact that that would be a shared computer. So then we did have some kids come back, or even parents who came back and said, oh my gosh, we realized we need another computer. Like, or they may have been sharing it with a sibling, and then the parents even realize you really need a 1-to-1 ratio on the computer. And a lot of parents didn't realize that. I don't think I would have either. So next year, the plan is to assign everyone a computer at the beginning of the school year, because then you don't have to worry about cleaning them.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of classes that use computers every day.
Yeah.
So that's the plan next year, which I think will be so much better, because a lot of kids are trying to do things on their phone, and it's just, they're trying to do all the things I'm asking them to do. And I'm like, why is this, what's going on here? And I realized, oh, you're on your phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can you use your computer? Yeah, but they prefer their phone.
Yeah.
That's just their preference. It's a different generation. So it's
totally.
You know, and we've also had to teach them, you have to check your email. And they're like, ugh. And this generation doesn't use email.
Right. I find it really interesting. Like we were like 4 weeks in to this, and my kids were using iPads a lot for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking with Anne, my wife, and I was like, you know what, if this goes any longer, we just got to buy the kids computers. We just got to get them their own thing, because it's too much, right? And we didn't so as soon as they called it and they said we're not going back to school for the year, I got online and I bought both my kids' laptops, and I was just like, you know, okay, this is your school. This is I don't let them play games on it. I don't let them do anything else on it except schoolwork, so that this way mentally they can divide their, you know, workspace from their play space. Cause it's just, you know, it's hard to manage stuff in that way. Like at work, you know, I can find ways to distract myself. That's why I like going to coffee shops, right? Because then I'm focused, right? So kind of the same principle there is like I try to focus my kids by having them in different spaces. I put the kids in Bellstein Hall the other day, just to change it up so that they can focus, you know. Fascinating. It is.
And you don't know what's going to be a good focus for one kid over another. For me, if I went to a coffee shop, I'd be watching all the people and I would be trying to figure out their story. So I would be completely distracted. That would not work for me, because that's what I love to do. I love to figure out someone's story. Yeah. So I'm always wrong. It's just a fun thing to do.
Sure.
But, yeah, that wouldn't work for me, but everyone's different. And we also, you don't know what your child's going to struggle with during this journey. And so every single person's going to have a different struggle. For Maddie, it has been seeing people and just being with people. And for Jack, it's just been the motivation of that P and the pass versus fail. And he calculated that he didn't have to do anything and he could get a pass. And I was like, oh, no.
Right.
And so there's a lot of those too.
Yeah.
I have a lot of those students. They're like, I'm like, are you going to turn this in? I figured out I really don't need to. I'm like, oh man. And so, you know, motivation's been a tough one for a lot of people. So
I've been trying to concentrate on my kids about just like, what I care about is that you understand what you're doing, that you are gaining the information. And so work on the process, not necessarily, doing well on a test. I want them to do well on tests, but like, okay, let's figure out why you got it wrong. Let's go back and try to fix it. Let's try to see and master the subject rather than concentrate on grades right now, because we're in a really weird time. And, part of me is I want them to move the ball forward, but I don't care about moving the ball too far forward right now, because it's stress. On top of that, stress is a big deal. The kids are stressed out. Their mental health is really needs to be a focus, I think.
Yeah, I agree. We've had to take some students and say, you're done. Like we're going to put you're no longer doing this. We've also had to take some students and say, okay, you're not doing anything but these two subjects, math and English.
Yeah.
So we've had to really work on mental health. A lot of kids, the counselors are still meeting with kids. We have interns that still meet with kids. And that's definitely a big deal. One of the things one of the counselors does that I love is that she does Friday lunch hour, and you can just join and it's just for fun.
Nice.
And you join, and she has teachers come as surprises. And when I joined the last time, it was just super fun to see kids doing, whatever else. And we didn't talk about school at all. We just talked about all different things. So that's kind of a fun. And some kids just come because they want someone to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's, important. Some of them don't have someone to talk to during the day because their parents are super busy working and stressed. And then some of my kids are babysitting their younger sibling and making sure their younger sibling's doing their homework. So there's a lot of pressure on, you just don't know what's going on at home. Yeah. So, but I agree with you with tests. I always tell my students that tests are a check for understanding. It's not to make you miserable. And they're always like, really? And it's really a check for understanding. So if they don't do well on a test, it's my fault. And they're just like, really? I'm like, that's my fault. That means, oh, I didn't teach that part well, or I didn't do this well, or okay, we need to do this again. So we're a lot about revisions and revising and retaking until we understand.
Do you find,
and that's a tough one.
Do you find that like when you're grading tests that you go, wow, everyone got number 2 wrong. I'm the one who obviously missed something when I taught this because nobody understands this question. Do you ever find that?
Exactly. I mean, that's why I love group tests, because it usually happens in the group test where they'll struggle on a problem and I'll walk by and I'll see all the groups are struggling on the same problem. And then that gives me sort of an idea of why is that a struggle? Or you'll see a student, another thing that happens in a group test that I love is a student will explain it differently from how I explained it. And then the other kids are like, oh, now we understand. Sometimes the way I see something isn't necessarily the way everyone sees something, right? And so the discussions have to happen. And so that's a really fun time, geometry especially, because you can do, well, in algebra, you can do every problem multiple ways. So we don't teach you have to move the X over here. That's not how it works. You can solve any problem in many ways. And so there's a lot of, hey, this is how so-and-so did the problem. Did anyone do it differently? And they get so proud to come up and show how they did the problem. And then another person will come up and say, well, I did it this way. And so there's not a teaching of this is the one way to do it. There's many ways, and it's what resonates with you. So yeah, that's what's hard in this though now, right? Because it's really hard to be able to have them take a test and show their work. All of those things. So I'm really, really crossing my fingers that we're going to have at least a couple of days a week in class with them. Because I think that's going to be really necessary to check in with them with their mental health, as well as to be able to explain things and to communicate. That's something I'm really, really hopeful for. It's sounding like it's going to be classes of 12 to 15. But it's just going to be, all schools are working on different combinations. The high schools are working on maybe like 2 days on, 3 days off, or half days every day, or they're working on all different scenarios, 4 days on. And then in the elementary schools, they're worried more about childcare for the parents. So the parents are concerned. And then in middle school, we're kind of the in-between.
Yeah, wow.
So but I work at a school where a lot of kids get themselves to and from school. So it's pretty flexible. Kids bike to school, walk to school. So that part's good. But some of the kids' favorite classes, like they don't know if they're going to do PE. They don't know if they're going to do electives. They don't know how they're going to do band and those types of things. And that's going to be some of these kids' favorite classes. If you would ask my kids their favorite class in middle school, they probably would have told you PE.
Right. Right.
Let's be honest, PE and recess. I'm like, oh boy. So that's probably what my kids would have said. So, I mean, if you take that away, and then they're also saying like eating lunch in the classroom. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most boring day ever. So there's going to be, we're going to have to whoop it up a little bit, make it more exciting. I've been saying like, maybe they can draw those circles on the playground like they've done in Dolores Park. And we can do class outside sometimes. I don't know, we're gonna have to switch it up. Some schools Zoom all day. I don't agree with that. I think there's Zoom fatigue.
It's a real thing.
They get headaches.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a big problem, to be staring at a screen all day. There's a lot of schools who do it. So there's got to be a combination.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all that about your school and stuff. Can I ask you another question, switching kind of gears here?
Yeah.
Do you have any hobbies or passions, or what are you?
That's hobbies. I love to hike. I like to garden. Gary always laughs at me that I garden. I do my own yard. But I think it's because when I'm done, or like raking leaves, when I'm done with it, I feel like I accomplished something. And one of the hardest things in teaching is that you're never really done.
Oh
And
gosh.
no one's going to tell you, Miss Wiessinger, you nailed it today. That was such a good lesson. That's not happening, right? And there's none of that. And I came from the corporate world before I was teaching. And Gary does one-on-ones every week with the people who work for him. And so they're getting feedback all the time. And that doesn't happen in this kind of a job. Probably doesn't happen for you either.
Not so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to do that. I like to run. We just bought a treadmill, and it has kind of saved our lives. We realized that our gym membership is never going to happen again. We went to a gym that's probably never going to be able to be open, or not in a capacity that we will feel safe.
Yeah.
And so we bought a treadmill, and I'm running in Croatia, and it's like one of the greatest things ever. And Gary's running in Portugal. And so I get off of it, and I have this huge smile on my face, and I'm just like, so that was worth the investment for sure.
Yeah.
So that's what has been keeping us happy.
Yeah. I bought a row machine.
Yeah. I hate rowing, by the way. I don't know how you do it.
I didn't really try it before this, and I love it. I love it so much. I just, yeah, it's a workout. I mean, it's a full body workout. It's crazy.
I think that's why I don't like it. At Orangetheory, the row was always my least favorite, especially the 2,000 meter row days. But Gary loves the row. He crushes the row. He loves the row. But that row, not my favorite thing. But it's an all body workout. They say it's the best thing you can do.
Right, right. Well, you should just get a row machine and then free weights, and then your Orangetheory at home, right?
We kind of are, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm sad too. I'm sad too because I did Orangetheory as well, and I don't know. Like, is it ever going to open again? Probably not. Do you know? Are they going bankrupt? Or do you know?
They're okay. I don't know how, because they are not taking fees from anyone, which is very nice of them. Yeah. My last class had 39 people in it, in a room I want to try and describe as like twice the size of the kitchen in the church. So yeah. Very small space. It's pretty gross. Yeah. And so I left there going, I don't think I'm going back. Like, right. I was just kind of like, that's not probably smart. But they say they're going to do every other and all this stuff. They have a plan, and they're going to definitely go back, and they're doing online, really great workouts online. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I hope they make it, but it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I heard 24-Hour Fitness is filing for bankruptcy.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, that's like the big one,
Yeah, my parents go there because they give anyone over a certain age a free membership. Mm-hmm. So they will be bummed. Yeah, gyms. Well, Europeans think we're weirdos anyway. They don't have gyms, and they would probably just say, go outside, people. Right. So maybe it's God's way of telling us to go outside and see the world and stop going to the gym and slow your lives down.
Right.
I don't know.
That hiking is a passion. You like to exercise, run, rake.
Rake. What is that? Yeah. I read in the summer. I read on breaks. I don't read in the school year at all.
Oh yeah, that's good.
I have no mental capacity for it. I'm usually grading like 75 papers a night. So that's just not going to happen.
Wow. My sister-in-law is a teacher, and my brother says that there's, he calls it school year Jessica and then summer Jessica. And like, they're two separate people. And I just wonder, do you experience like summer's way different than you experience the school year? Like, it sounds like you do.
Yeah, well, my kids have never taken camp. So we used to call it Camp Hillary. and we would go on adventures and we would go do things.
Nice.
And so yeah, Gary does not love it because we all sort of sleep in. We're all like jolly every day, and he's going to work every day. So he's always like, great. So when we say like, oh, we're so sad to go back to school, he's like, I don't feel sorry for you guys at all. But, yeah, summer is, it's just nice to be able to let go of all the structure. I'm a pretty big structure person. Our house has structure during the school year, and during the breaks, it's not structured, and everybody chooses their own outing. So every week we go on an outing of someone's choosing, and it always amazes me the outings that they choose and the things they want to go see.
Like what?
That's been super fun.
What are some of the things that you were kind of surprised
One of my
about?
favorites was when Jack was like in 3rd grade, he asked to go to Alcatraz. And so we went, and he was just, they were both, but they were just mesmerized. And that was super, and they had their headphones on. It was really fun. But we have done Angel Island by bike, and then we've gone in all the old structures and learned about those.
Nice.
And that's a really fun one. You ferry there. We bike over the Golden Gate Bridge. We have, well, we do a lot of like different small ones in the city. There's some swings in the city Maddie just took us to recently, that are up at the top of, I can't think of the name of the little neighborhood right now. But there's swings, and you can swing over the city. It's basically what it looks like.
Wow.
We have taken cardboard and slid down the South San Francisco sign. That was a really fun one.
Yeah.
We almost hurt ourselves, but it was very fun. And we probably got ticks and fleas on the way, but that's okay. It was a fun adventure. You know, you learn. And then we go to Wisconsin a lot. So Gary works from there, but and then the kids and I do a lot of exploring there. There's a lot of exploring that happens there because they don't have any friends there.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely their entertainer.
That's awesome. Okay, this is my last question for you. 2 questions, sorry. What is faith for you?
Well, I probably said it before. So for me, it's connecting to thinking about the things that I want to think about that don't revolve around me. So getting out of the me space and thinking about the world. For instance, the peace and what I would like to see in the world, and how I would want to be treated, and how I would want to treat others, and having sort of the faith that everybody is kind and everybody has a warm heart, and that everyone comes from a good place, and we were all made that way. So everybody has that good. I guess probably my faith is that everybody is good.
I really appreciate that, because it's so easy to assume that people are not, right? And
Right.
to really practice that, okay, most people are doing the best they can, and they're trying to bring good into the world. That's a spiritual discipline right there. That's hard to do, in my opinion. I mean, it's, you know, my wife sees like somebody cut me off the other day. I'm like, God, this guy's being a jerk. And she's like, he could be going to the hospital right now. You know, like she assumes good intentions. And I'm like, oh, I need you so badly in my life. Because I just, you know, I don't, that's not necessarily what I do. And the fact that she's able to do that, I just appreciate so much, because it reminds me to get out of my own head, like you're saying, right?
Right. Right. And I think in middle school, I used to teach high school, and now I teach middle school, and it's such a difficult age group, but I love it so much that I keep reminding my students that we all have errors. We all have faults, but they all show in different ways. So you may think so-and-so has no faults, but when they go home, maybe they have some faults, or wherever their faults are, but we all have them. And reminding everybody that we all have those faults. It's just they show up in different ways in everyone. It really helps kids that think that so-and-so is perfect, and that they're not.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing in middle school, feeling like you don't fit in.
Right.
Yeah. So that's really good.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, Hillary, for that. Okay, this is my last question for you. What is your hopes for our church, HTLC? Do you have any hopes for our congregation?
Well, I think one of the greatest things about HTLC is that it's your other sort of home. Everybody feels, they walk in the door and they just sort of feel at home. It's like coming to a Sunday dinner. We have a lot of Sunday dinners in our family, and where everyone gets together. And it's sort of that soul food. It's that time where everybody comes together, and when you see people's faces and the big smiles, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so-and-so. It's so good to see them. And so for me, it's like another home. And I didn't grow up in one church. I moved a ton. And so for my kids, it's been pretty amazing when they were thinking about their confirmation speech and they were thinking about the fact that they were baptized there. It really is, they know that all these people have their back. They know that all these people will help guide them. And I think that's just kind of it's got to be an amazing feeling for them. I never had that sense of security. No. And so I am just like, wow, that's a really neat, and anyone, you could be there 5 years. Maybe you feel the same way. You could be there. We've been there 15 years.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
I hope that for everyone else who comes.
Yeah. That's really great. Thank you. Hillary, thank you so much for having a conversation with me today. And I appreciate you so much, and I'm grateful for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking me. I can't believe people are going to watch this. It'll be hilarious. I don't think it's very interesting.
They totally will, I promise.